All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Perry Carnegie Library. Roll call, please, sir.
Coldiron. Bond.
Here.
Dilbeck.
Here.
Ahern. Marshall.
Here.
White.
Here.
Morrell.
Here.
Wines. Stroller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. This evening, our CFO will give the invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we always bow before you and we always acknowledge you for the things that you've given us. And we thank you for this government and we thank you for the men and the women that sit on this table to make decisions for our community. Lord, we ask tonight that you bless them with wisdom, with discernment, as the items that they address will affect our lives and will affect in all the glory that we give you. And that's all things we pray in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Russ. Item number 1 on the agenda is the consent agenda. There's one item that received the meetings from the last meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Bond.
Yes.
Dilbeck.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Morrell.
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Comments from those assembled on anything from on the library board meeting? Seeing none, item 5, the presentation of oral quarterly report on the library usage and statistics from the Perry Carnegie Library by Pam Riggs, the head librarian.
Hi,
Hello, Pam.
we're gonna go with the news first. Our library belongs to a consortium of libraries in Oklahoma for ebooks. Because the consortium is popular and the checkouts are steadily increasing, not only at our library, but in all the libraries. You need a library card for the service and it can be accessed from our website. Purchasing models are changing. Many publishers are putting a 3-month embargo on titles. They will be available for immediate purchase for individuals, but not for libraries. Other publishers will allow us to purchase one title for a consortium for the embargo. One title, whole state consortium. This will be extremely frustrating to our patrons when they see a new title with hundreds of holds and only one copy. In my opinion, even with the new publisher's rule, we still can't beat what is offered by this consortium. Many times the Oklahoma Department of Libraries gives funding to augment purchases from the individual libraries, including our own. So this is a wonderful service. We have so many patrons that we never see until their library card expires. And then they're in there really quick. They also have children's books. Recent events. Hannah Campos helped 19 people learn to make salsa and flour tortillas on September 23rd. The participants brought kitchen utensils and the library supplied the ingredients and everyone got to take home salsa. Of course, we had a couple bags of chips to facilitate snacking. The attendees had a great time and requested similar activities. We even had men in attendance. Ooh, yeah. Story by Starlight was on Thursday, October 17th. Russell Brand read the book with no pictures. The books, honestly,
Wow, you read a book with no pictures?
it's a children's book, a little kid's book with no pictures. And the person that reads the book needs to have a very good sense of self-worth. It's a little bit of a setup. And I'm not,
How'd that work out?
Russell did a great job, and we're very appreciative. So thank you for that. We had the book gift wrapped, and Russell didn't get to see the book ahead of time. Russell is an incredibly good sport. The kids loved the story. We handed out free flashlights to the first 31 kids. Well, we had more flashlights, but there were 31 kids. We had to-go snacks for everyone. Local businesses agreed to allow us to put pages from another picture book in their windows. Parents took the kids around the square to read the story. A big thanks to Russell and the local businesses who allowed us to display in their storefronts. So on Halloween, we'll be handing out glow sticks. Don't want to miss us. On December 5th, Thorns will be coming to the library at 11 a.m. to demonstrate how to wrap gifts. We will provide holiday snacks. We did this program 2 years ago and it was very successful. Santa will be coming to the library at 3:30 on December 10th. This is a great photo op, and it doesn't matter if the weather is poor. Kids can also go downstairs and make holiday slime. What is better than Santa and slime?
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Any questions for Pam?
Just a comment. I really appreciate you and your staff for all the programs, the inventive programs that y'all put together for a small town. This is an excellent library with excellent staff, so, and excellent leadership. So thank you, Pam. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Any new business that needs to come before the library board this evening? Seeing none, item 7, a motion on the adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, sir.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting, or call to order the regular meeting of the Perry Municipal Authority, October 21st at 6:21. Roll call, please.
Coldiron, Bond,
Here.
Dilbeck,
Here.
Ahern, Marshall,
Here.
White,
Here.
Morrow,
Here.
Wines, Stroller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. Item number 1, the consent agenda. Again, it's just one item, the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the PMA agenda. Seeing none, proclamation, commendations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Anyone have anything to want to discuss? Item number 6, any new business needs to come before the PMA this evening. Item 7, motion on adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Perry, October 21st at 6:23. Roll call, please.
Coldiron, Bond,
Here.
Dilbeck,
Here.
Ahern, Marshall,
Here.
White,
Here.
Morrow,
Here.
Wines, Stroller.
Here. Thank you, and I do declare a quorum. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. There's a pretty good lengthy list. We can get a motion to approve on those.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes. Item number 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to the items on the city agenda. I guess.
Debbie, you have to step up there for the podium, please.
Hi, I'm Debbie Wallace. I live at 1302 North 2nd Street, Perry, Oklahoma, and I'm here due to the flooding issues at my house. Although my house has not flooded, it's been 6 months since the storm, and every time it rains, my yard continues to wash away due to the neglect of the easement until I can divert the water from my backyard. It has washed away. Now it has washed away the back step. My mother can no longer go in our backyard to water my dogs, go out back. It has washed away all my dirt. You can see the post where the concrete has, where you have to pour the concrete in to set the post. The dirt has completely washed away. It keeps washing away every single time it rains. I know that Mike, you have met with Mike after the last meeting I spoke to the next day. Mike met with the city manager, Sam, the engineering department out of Ponca City. Mike was waiting for somebody to get back with them. I called your office, Larry, a couple weeks ago. Dixie told me she would call me back. I have yet to hear from her. Nobody at all has contacted me since I walked out of here. Mike did get a phone call, Mike Meslow, because he's the one that's gonna have to bring me in. Every truckload of dirt is $200. I am looking at now at least 3 truckloads to even build my yard back up. The house beside me has been sold. He is taking and moving, we have moved trees, but until we can move the water down the easement, east and west, it's gonna continue to flood and wash away my yard. We have a fenced-in yard and our dogs. I have no way of stopping that water. Even if I put in the drainage, I can't do anything with the city's property. I have to figure out what the city's gonna do to stop their part of the water so I can save my house. I'm still on concrete 6 months later. I need some help, and you guys aren't helping me. You have never ever returned any of my phone calls or even came to my house.
I don't believe you've ever called me.
We spoke outside of the city hall, and you told me you would come to my house. I talked to you 3 days later.
I told you last time you were here that Larry and I would come there together.
I'm still
And-
waiting.
And he's been on medical leave ever since the last meeting we had a discussion. So we will come to your house.
It's been 6 months.
Not since that, not since
It's
I
been
talked to you.
6 months since my house flooded the last time. It's been 22 years I've been fighting this flood. It's not like it's a new problem. I'm just at the point now that I cannot put down another floor. This is the 4th floor. I have all of my flooring sitting in the back room that I cannot put down until we change the water. So I'm just stuck.
Let me call you in the morning. I promise I'll call you in the morning. And we'll discuss this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
What's
Thank
the
you.
address, Debbie?
1302 North 2nd Street. Is that all? Thank you.
And your name was what, ma'am?
Debbie Wallace.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Item 5, proclamation, accommodations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Seeing none. Item 6, the city manager's report.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate Dixie Johnson for being acting city manager while I was gone. Not back full-time yet, but starting to ease in a little bit. It's nice to be back in City Hall. I miss my family. 600 block of Jackson Street is coming along nicely. They have on the southeast part of Jackson, they've started laying concrete. They already have the forms down on both sides, so that's coming along nicely. Certainly, if the rains hold off, we certainly won't see the kind of issues that we had on Grove. So this should be a lot faster. So, thank you, sir. Any questions or anything? Thank you.
Item 7, the chief financial officer's report.
Well, guys, we are a quarter of the way through the year. I'll tell you what, you stop and say that it seems like we just stopped the budget and we really just closed out the last fiscal year, let alone having to be a quarter way through this year. So, there's a handful of things that have happened, and a couple of things that hopefully our citizens recognized last month, or at least the bills that they got in the month of September, and maybe they've come to you all and said, wow, thanks for the decrease in my electric bill. But if they haven't, let me remind them that the city as a whole had about $133,000 credit that flowed through from OMPA this past month on the electric bills due to some things that happened at the OMPA level. But that $133,000 was passed on to our citizens. So So if they haven't thanked you for that, as much as they always gripe about the utility rate increases, maybe they'll come out at the same time and thank you for the decrease that was passed through to them on this last electric bill. So just something to keep in mind and look at. It's a one-time, probably never going to happen again situation, but when it did, it was the purview of management and those that were looking at it to go ahead and pass that credit through to the customers. So, while our wholesale electric didn't cost us as much, thereby the residents' electric didn't cost them as much. And yes, $100,000 is a lot of money. So just something that maybe needs to be brought out that not anybody else I don't even think it's on any of the other agenda items for us to address. But it did come through as a PCA adjustment to us, and we passed it right on through to the customers. So that's something that I thought you guys really want to know about. On the other side of the coin, looking at sales tax and looking at where we are year to date. If you will remember, in September was our first month that we collected the extra penny sales tax that's going on to the hospital. We forwarded on to them almost a little over $41,000 for the month of September. They got about $43,000 for the month of October to help support the hospital operations. Mind you, we collect that, but it goes through. So if we take that penny out that we're not really collecting, overall our sales tax this year compared to last year is down about 2.5%. We budgeted us to be down right at 10%. So as you're looking at your numbers, we're kind of right in line with what we would expect for that. Now, we always budget hoping that we're going to collect more than our 90% of that reoccurring revenue. But right now, we're on pace to be about 10% down for the year whenever our total numbers come out. So it's all right. We've budgeted that way. It's not an alarming piece, something that I'm going to jump up and down and tell you, oh, we've got to go right a ship. We've got to cut spending someplace. All of our spending was prefaced on that number anyhow. It's just, we always like to be a little bit above that. We like to have our numbers a little higher. And so that we've undershot our revenue, and that means that the economy's doing well. As we look at that, the same thing goes for our hotel motel tax collections. We're down to about $12,800, almost $13,000 in hotel motel collections for the month. Mind you, that the majority of that money goes for debt service on our bonds, but the other part of it out of hotel motel tax goes to take care of the chamber and take care of Main Street in the subsidies that we pay them. So we are down. We have a cushion of collected monies that we have carried over from the past, but over the last year we've been eating into that at about $4,000 to $5,000 a month. So at some point we're going to run out of that cushion, and that's going to be a place that we're going to have to stop and look at our spending overall. It's not an area for today. It's an area that as we get into the next budget year and as we start talking about that, if our hotel motel doesn't pick up, we'll be in that. Just as reference, if you were to go back a year, we were averaging about $18,000 to $19,000, and then you go back 2 years over that, and we were at $24,000 and $25,000. So we're almost half in hotel motel tax collections. And I try not to look at just 1 month. Whenever I look at August, September, and October, and I kind of look at those three as they come together. We should be hitting, 2 years ago we would have been hitting upper 20s in those collections. And now we're hitting, 12 and 13s in those collections. So it's just one of those things that overall we want to look at and we just want to be cognizant of. Whatever revenues aren't coming in, that's when Larry gets the fun job of cutting back on some of the expenditures and not approving as many things as he would want to whenever they come across, because that's really what we have to do, is just control our expenses at this point. We've got a budget, but we're going to control our expenses to go on down. As far as expenses go, speaking of that, our percentage of the year should be about 25% as you look down. Most everybody falls within a 27% number, which some of those 27s are due to capital outlay that we've made, maybe one-time purchases that aren't there. Some of that capital outlay, some of that's just seasonality. We have big expenditures during the summer months. We don't have those during the winter months. So that's the other piece that you'll see as you look down. I did mention the transfer. We're on our second month of transferring money to the hospital for their sales tax and for their operations. So that's kind of new at the bottom, and we'll start breaking that out on the financials for you, so you can see the full transfer out and not just net that against each other. That way you'll kind of know month in and month out, hey, look how much we've given to the hospital to help support their operations. Other than that, I really don't have any comments. Our utility revenues, like I said, even with the rebate of the $100,000 that we gave, our electric is still pacing above what we would expect. We really expect it to be about 28% on budgeted revenues. So our consumption on revenue has been up, which is a good piece. Water is trending right at that 28%. So it'll fall off, as people quit watering, as cooler weather comes in and those kind of things. But overall, still sitting in a good spot. So I'm very happy with where we are. The other thing, UTS, we've paid over, in the month of September, running out of this piece, we've paid over $1 million, or over $925,000, right at $1 million, on the AMI system. So that's the other big piece that happened this quarter. So, that will be in place and moving forward, and everybody's gonna be so happy whenever it's all said and done, so.
Chris, would you explain something to me?
Yes.
And it puzzles me. When I look at these statistics you give us, we've opened 3 or 4 new small businesses, and we're still down 2.5% on sales tax. I guess I don't see how that's possible.
Well, it's the bigger dollars that just aren't getting spent here in town. Whenever you think about it. So, number one, the hotel motel piece. Whenever I tell you the hotel motel tax by itself is down $12,000, okay? That $12,000 really equates to, about $6,000 of sales tax for us, okay? $6,000 of sales tax in our collection number. So even just the hotels, and I'm just only gonna pick that because those are 2 numbers that I'm giving you. I mean, I'm not talking to individual businesses. But that $6,000, whenever you take that as a percentage of our monthly income, that's 3.5–4% by itself right there. So just the fact that the hotel motels aren't full can affect us 3 to 4% just in spending. Now that means that all the other dollars that are spent in town have to be spent in a very likewise and standard number. People aren't going out of town to buy. We're not getting those out of town pieces. But those are really what is driving. If I'm giving you just one piece, I can tell you that just the stays at the hotels by itself can drop us 3% over last year's number. So the small businesses and those things that generate. If you're talking to a small business owner and they tell you, hey, we turned in $1,000 of sales tax this month, so the city should get $1,000. That's not how sales tax really works, because in that sales tax that they turned in is 4.5 cents to the state. You've got the county piece, and then we get 4.25, but we don't even get to keep 4.25 because we send a penny of it to the hospital. So we only keep 3.25. So on that $1,000 that they turn in, we only get $325. So effectively 30% of all of the sales tax that a business generates here in town, we actually get to keep. That's a low number, whenever you think about it, because a small business says, hey, I turned in $1,000 in sales tax, we should see a bump. We're only gonna see a $300 bump for every dollar of sales tax that they turn in.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we get any online sales
We-
tax?
We do have some online sales tax. Matter of fact, if you'll look at your reports, I'll show you in our financials on the page 2 of our financials, not the cash sheet. But so online sales are treated as what is called use tax. We have sales and use tax. Okay, sales tax are direct sales that occurred within the city limits and happened here. Mind you, people spent their dollars in Perry and did it. Use tax is paid based on things that are brought into the city from outside. Most of the time from online sales that occurred outside the state, okay? And so that use tax number is a piece that comes in and gives us the online sales number. If you buy an Amazon and they charge you sales tax on that, more than likely that vendor is reporting that as a use tax, and we're collecting it in that category. You'll see that our use tax is setting at about 35% of what we have budgeted. So we're about 10% over in use tax. Now I will tell you that this is one of the areas and one of the pieces in the financials that is so hard to predict. I mean, guys, across 50 municipalities that we work with, this is the one number that I never know where to put it. More and more it's going to become consistent with online sales and these reporting pieces, but we're getting bigger and bigger issues related to it. So one of the things that we always like to say, and then you've kind of heard me joke around the table, buy local or buy online. You know, I mean, buy local first, and if you can't buy it local, don't get in your car and drive down the street to Stillwater to go buy it. Just go ahead and order it and wait for that day for it to be delivered, or 2 days, whatever Amazon's delivering now, or Walmart or whoever you want to buy from. I'm not selling Amazon at this point, but go online and buy it, because at that point we're still going to generate a tax revenue for the city. So every dollar you spend now gets to stay inside of Perry instead of going to Stillwater or going to Enid or Oklahoma City or wherever else you spend it. So we do need those dollars spent right here at home.
Okay, on the use tax, is it the same amount as the sales tax?
It is the exact same amount as the sales tax, yes. So
Do we have to do the 1% to the hospital on the use tax?
we do not have to do the 1% to the hospital on the use tax.
And the county gets their?
County gets
And the
theirs
state?
and the state gets their money, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Russ? All right. I want to back up just a little bit. We skipped over in the consent agenda, there are reports from the Chamber and Main Street. If you ladies would like to make your report, we would be happy to hear it.
What a great time to report after that discussion.
Sorry.
It's
But
okay.
you need to tell us how
Yeah,
you're
this
raising
is-
sales
this
tax
is
right
great.
here.
This
It
is a great
the
opportunity.
transition
We
into
have it all figured out.
how
Don't worry,
great
guys.
we're gonna
We
be.
got you coasting right here with Russ.
Come on, Noel,
Um,
tell us how you're gonna do it.
All right. Well, let's not get disappointed. I did submit our quarterly report in your packets. So as you know, our largest event was in September, so we did host Turkey Strip Celebration. We did see a little bit of decrease in attendance, so I guess I can really attest to a little bit of Russell's report as it is. And that's just kind of walking around seeing the crowds. But overall, we had over 70 craft and exhibitor vendors, and that included 18 food vendors. So there was a lot more vendors than what we had had in the last couple years, which was good for us. Bo Phillips Band performed as our main stage entertainment. And we had all of the traditions that we normally have, the gunfighters, main entertainment. And if you'll look on there, we do always put this in there, and showing that we do have these large events and what it can do for the city. We have a formula that we put in that shows really the estimated attendance, and if they were to stay here, gas here, eat here, what that sales tax would look like. So if everybody that attended that event were to do what we would hope they would do in our community, that event could bring $63,000 to our community in sales tax revenue. So hosting those large events like that, or hosting events, is really what Main Street and the Chamber try to do for the city. It's, you know, a combined effort with our hotel motels, but doing things like events and parades and having things that people want to come home to, or having things that people want to come downtown for, and support local businesses, support downtown, support our area businesses. That revenue is going to build in our city, and that's what we hope by doing events like this. So not only did we have just celebration, we also had the 5K, 10K run. That included 80 registered runners. That registration starts at 6:30, so I would hope the people that did not live here and registered for that race, that hopefully they did stay in our hotels, and so hopefully we will see a little bit of flux in that. But that is, you know, our hopes is that we can get them to stay and eat and dine and get gas and stay the night. Our carnival was here. We sold 258 wristbands. That was more than last year. We ran out last year, so we increased our advanced wristbands. They did have a rain out night on Thursday, which just kind of comes with celebration. When celebration comes, either it's going to be freezing cold or rain, or something is going to happen. And I apologize because that was completely my fault. So I did ask for that. So yeah, sorry. If you read Facebook, you would understand. But I did ask for rain for that event, so they did have a rain out on one of those nights. So they did have the day open from 12 to 4 for people who did purchase wristbands to attend. And then we had our parade. We had over 80 registered parade entries. Not everybody registers with us. We do ask that they do. It makes it a little bit easier for us to place them. If anybody's been a part of the placement, Marvin DeVent and Kirk Ward and our board chair Lawrence Wortham, they do handle that. Along with Stephen Duke, he was one of our volunteers that helped with that. You see a whole different side of the parade than what you see sitting on the streets. And so we really appreciate everybody's efforts for helping with Turkey Strip celebration, because that week is very crazy. But we did survive, and hopefully we did see a lot more people come to town that we hadn't seen, and they will plan on coming back. So that's always what we hope for, bringing things to Perry. And then if you look on there, just a few items out of tourism. I did attend the OEDC Economic Development Summit with City Manager Larry Pinnell and his wife Claudia. That was really a great effort. It was over workforce development, and that's something that we see as a huge need here in Perry. And so I think we really got some good information from that of what we need to do and hopefully how we can help some of these businesses, because we are asking these businesses to thrive and open up downtown, but they also need workers. And so it's not just coming here and opening up and everything's going to work out and they're going to bring a ton of sales tax. They still have to have workforce, and they have to have employees. They have to have the money to pay them. So we hope that we can really support local businesses so that they do keep coming and opening up in our community. Other than that, we still are hosting our Coffee Connections. Those are every Friday morning at 9:30. If you have not attended, please come and do so. They really support our area businesses. This Friday will be at Brown Duggar, and it will be at their location on Friday at 9:30. So other than that, I don't have anything else. Just kind of winding down from the craziness of Turkey Strip celebration. And then coming into this month, we will have Halloween around the square, which will be on October 31st, which is a Thursday. So everybody can be very happy about that. We do invite other area businesses who are not downtown on the square to contact us if they would like to pass out candy. We'll get them set up so that way they can be part of just kind of the whole school of fish. They come around and they really don't waver off of that path of the square. But one of my favorite events that we do here in Perry, so everybody come out on Halloween night and support all of our businesses that are passing out candy with all of the trick-or-treaters.
Now, what kind of weather are you gonna make responsible for that night?
You will just have to wait and see. I would hope for sunshiny skies and great weather, but I won't say anything because you just never know.
So we can quote you on that.
Yes. I may be the weather woman, I don't know.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm not sick. I just did a lot of softball momming this weekend, so my voice is a little raspy. Sent in the little kind of newsletter that we send out. It talked about some of the things that we did the last few months to touch on that sales tax. Small businesses are the backbone of America. Continue to support them and help them grow. A question I do have, that hotel motel tax, since we are following up then this conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
This Main Street gets, and I'm pretty sure the chamber gets funded out of the general fund, not hotel motel tax.
You should get funded out of the hotel motel tax.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's how we've always.
okay.
We've
I just wasn't sure because
designated it
I've
as
always
your
been confused
economic
about that because in the budget, like on the,
It's paid out
it's
of the general
listed out.
fund.
Okay,
It's paid out of the general fund, but it is budgeted as an expenditure of the hotel motel
Okay.
tax.
always been
Yes.
kind of confused about that, so.
Yes.
And wanted to ask, and I think I've talked to other people about it before, but not here. So a few things that we have coming up, Shop Small, again, supporting that small business. We're gonna do a lot more this year to tie in with our Christmas parade to encourage that shopping. Part of the purpose of having a downtown event is to support those downtown businesses. So we're gonna be incorporating a lot more with our downtown businesses that will lead up to the Christmas parade, and kick it all off on November 30th, which is Shop Small. It's celebrated all across the nation, and we'll be a neighborhood champion. We'll hand out, again, the bags and the balloons, and really try to get everyone in there to increase those sales taxes. So a few other things that have been a major topic have been parking. I even just this last week with a meeting with It Works in Stillwater, they have a 90-minute parking policy. Well, not realizing that, and then, after we went to this meeting, we're like, okay, we're gonna go get lunch, then we're gonna walk down this way and just kind of see their downtown, look at some shops. And it just seemed like then whenever we realized, oh, have we been parked longer than 90 minutes? No, that means that we need to leave. So with parking, me, Noelle, and Larry worked on a simple letter, talked about leaving good parking spaces for customers, and handed that out, and hopefully got a good feedback, just a friendly letter of, hey, leave those spaces for customers, park behind your building if you can, park across the street, park around the corner. And because then that was that reminder then in Stillwater that you only have 90 minutes to eat, shop, dine, visit downtown. And so before we're looking at enacting those type of restrictions, regulations, maybe, let's go with the be a good neighbor, be a good building owner. And then other than that, we're just working on our strategic plan for next year. We're challenging ourselves with being the best organization that we can be and providing what the community needs, what the city of Perry needs. So any feedback, we'll be doing that November and December. So we'll take that. And then I also challenge y'all with that, the parking, the and whenever you guys are talking, discussing, and planning that, and then the downtown buildings, the fact that a building full of storage, unused, is a hazard. It's more dangerous than buildings that are occupied. So when planning and discussing, to keep that in mind.
Any questions for Caleb? Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
I used to listen to a talk show in Stillwater radio, and he would have to go move his car. He'd take a commercial break, and he'd come back huffing air. He had to run out and move his car right quick and get back to the radio station before his advertisement was up. So. All right, let's get back on track with item number 8. Consider approval of change order number 1 in the amount of minus $245.86 on the public construction contract regarding the Perry wastewater treatment plant and influent lift station project with Walters Morgan Construction. It doesn't happen very often, but they saved us $245.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say we made $245.
We had that discussion today, that we made $245.
We had a discussion that he and my wife went to the same school in the county.
Yeah.
Des doesn't watch YouTube, so I'm safe whenever I say that. Nobody forward this to her.
I think for $50 each, we wouldn't say a word.
Dyson, I just gave you your blackmail piece right there, buddy.
Tyson, flag that tape, please.
So anyway, we need approval on that from the council.
Move to approve change order number 1.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Sterling.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Item number 9, consider approval of contract documents and specifications prepared by Callan Group Engineering LLC for the Camp Tandaco Trail Project, including authorization of publication of the advertisement for bidders, and set the date for the receipt of bids for November 21st, 2019 at 2 p.m. So they are ready to let bids, we just need to authorize that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Strella.
Yes, thank you. Item number 10, consider declaring the 2004 model 3680 Beast Recycler as surplus property and no longer useful for any municipal purpose. Authorize the city manager to use best method to make the highest sell. I'm pretty excited about this. If anyone knows what the Beast is, it's that giant chipper we have at the convenience center that we've used for many years now. And to chip pallets for Ditch Witch, we don't do that anymore. We were chipping all the debris from trees that the citizens would bring into the convenience center. And that thing would break down periodically, and it was never anything cheap. It was always expensive, and sometimes it was several breakdowns. So, that being said, someone brought to my attention, and I apologize, I don't remember who it was, brought to my attention that there was a bill passed by the state that didn't make it all the way through the process that would allow us to burn all of our debris. And so I took it up on myself to contact our senator, Mr. Chuck Hall. And believe it or not, he called me back within a couple of days and said that I was actually wrong, that it had passed. And it was signed by the governor, and it was ready to be put in place November 1st. So at the same time, Sam Harmon had been working with the DEQ for an opportunity to get a burn permit, and he got the burn permit at the same time. So we've all, this Michelle Wynn in here, I've talked to her a couple times. I know that Sam's talked to her a couple times. Maybe someone else here has talked to her a couple times. But Sam has already burned the trees that we have on the permit he had. And as of November 1st, 2019, this year, that he can burn as needed to get rid of the debris out there. I believe it's good for any communities that have a population less than 100,000 people. And the reason they did that, they didn't want the city of Tulsa and Oklahoma City metro areas burning. But anything other than that, it's good to go. So
We got lucky and grandfathered in then, correct?
I don't know what you call it, grandfathered in, but we got in.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
But anyway, so we are hopefully going to send that big hunk of iron down the road somewhere with y'all's motion.
So does that mean that the city won't have mulch to give away?
That's exactly right.
Because it'll be burnt. It won't.
Yeah,
We can sell ashes.
But I'm assuming I'm assuming there's still about 300 truckloads out there now, unless they burned it all. I don't know. So, I don't know what was larger, our chip pile or our tree pile, but yeah, that will eliminate that.
And where do they burn?
They have a pit they've dug, I guess, right there at the community center. And it seemed like to me that there was a message sent out a couple weeks ago that they will be burning on Mondays or Tuesdays? Mondays.
Monday.
And Tuesday, it will be closed on Tuesday also, right? So.
So there's new hours.
Yes, I believe so. It'll change the hours. I believe they were closed on Monday anyway. Is
Yeah,
that not
they're
right?
already closed on
Yeah,
Sunday.
so they'll be closed Tuesday, because they don't want to let anybody into the area
Not
until
really
it's,
burning.
yeah, if y'all can remember right, back, I mean, I don't know how long ago, 10 or 15 years ago, they had a burn pit the city did somewhere, it's before my time. And there was a gentleman that fell in the pit. So we don't want anything like that to ever happen. So, send it down the road, council.
Motion to approve the declaring of the Chipper Beach Recycler as surplus property.
Second.
Any discussion?
That also includes authorizing the manager to sell.
Okay.
Your motion,
Okay.
correct? And second.
Yes.
Okay.
Authorizing the city manager to also sell it.
Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item number 11, consider approval of application for payment number 2 to Walter Morgan Construction Incorporated pursuant to the schedule of valves on the wastewater treatment plant influent lift station renovation project in the amount of $351,151.92 pursuant to the certification of Monsoon Consultants, city engineer. Blaine Reilly with Monsoon did sign off on this. Blair, do you have anything you need to add to that?
No, sir, I do not.
Motion to approve payment?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item number 12, consider approval of resolution number 2019-08 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, amending the 2005 capital improvement plan of the City of Perry, Oklahoma by amending Section E found on page 10 and 11 entitled Utilities by moving the fence around the water plant facility in subsection 3.9 of the designation of desirable of subsection 1 and with the designation of mandatory and amending the estimated cost from $200,000 to $36,700. Sir?
Just trying to get some more points on our grant. The next item is our grant application from REAP, which would, if you approve that, would apply for a $30,000 REAP grant to circle the water plant. And by changing that CIP designation from desirable to mandatory, we'll get more points. I think it's 15 points. And that also shows that since 2005, that has been something that we have wanted to do, and that we saw as an item in our capital improvement plan, one of the major projects. So, well, all this is a device to score higher. So if you like the REAP grant, you definitely want to approve this.
DEQ did come last year in April of 2018, and this lack of fencing around the water plant was a finding, was not a significant finding, but basically, we have 3 years to do this, and so this is very timely. We've already lost a year, almost a year and a half now, so this is very timely to get this going, so thank you, I appreciate that.
And we also get more points because it is a finding.
Yeah.
We get points for that. So we tried to pick something that we could maximize points. Actually asking for $30,000, you get points for that because you're not asking for more money. So, and this is just a project we needed, and we think we'll score well on the points.
What would you like to do, council?
Move to approve resolution number 2019-08.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Stroller.
Yes, thank you. Item 13, consider approval of resolution number 2019-09 2019-09 of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, authorizing the submission of an application for financial assistance for the Rural Economic Action Plan REAP Fund and set the amount of a local match.
I do want to note that the actual document is complete, the resolution is complete, the application is complete, but somehow it didn't get copied. You got an earlier draft in your brochure, so let me speak to it. First of all, we're applying for a $30,000 REAP grant. We're going to pay our own local match of $6,700 in the event we don't get full funding. The resolution says that we'll pay up to $10,000. Blaine, Dr. Reilly did prepare a report on this, which is attached. As I told you, we're going to get points because it's now mandatory. We're going to get points because we didn't get a REAP grant last year. You get points for that. We're going to get a number of points because of the type of application that we're making. The fact that it was a violation from the DEQ, and it would implement something that for a long time we've been trying to get done. So we would recommend that you do approve this. If you don't, we're going to have a special meeting because it's got to be turned in by Halloween. So.
So let's not have a special meeting.
Move to approve resolution 2019-09.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Bond,
Yes.
Gilbeck,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrell,
Yes.
Stelling.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. Item number 14, presentation by David Weatherford and Bill Tackett, representatives from the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, providing council training, including review of handbook of the city council, evaluation of Perry's strengths and weaknesses, and other instructions. Gentlemen and ladies, you guys might introduce her, the name's not on here.
Aubrey Weatherford is our person that does our audio-visual and is our necessary ingredient. She works for the Municipal Consultants LLC, and she also works for several municipalities in the state, handling their social media work along with other things that she does. Is that a sufficient introduction, do you think?
Pardon?
We've got PowerPoint. You think you can get us
You bet he
up on
can.
the screen?
How are you?
How are you?
Good. Dang.
Tyson?
Pretty short.
Right.
These are not.
You can make it work, so.
Well, if he's got some, I'll keep in mind.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, it's coming. I was about to give it. I was about to give it to you.
Thank you. Now I feel really special.
No cold in your sock this Christmas. Mayor, I'm Bill Tack with the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group. Thanks for having us back out. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and do this training with you all. Every year is the optimal time. So we're here, and so we're part of the recognition program. OMAG is a 42-year-old Title 74 Interlocal Cooperative Act agency. You get your workers' comp and property and liability insurance coverage from us. We're a public entity risk pool, and we were formed June 1st, 1977. Title 74 is a very powerful tool for cities and towns, for all subdivisions of government in the state of Oklahoma. All the states in the union except Hawaii either have joint powers authority or interlocal agreement. So the interlocal agreement is very simple. It says whatever you can legally do by yourself, you can go find a partner and do it with them. So June 1st, 1977, Choctaw in the Village, a couple of subdivisions of suburbs of Oklahoma City, couldn't get health insurance quotes in time to do their budget, it aggravated them, they signed an interlocal agreement. Mr. Cartwright put it in his file cabinet, and here we go. And from those two cities and towns, there's over 500, right at 500 cities and towns that belong to OMAG now. So OMAG was created by cities and towns, Choctaw and the Village to start with. We're owned by cities and towns, including Perry, and we're governed by cities and towns. Our trustees come from elected and appointed officials throughout the state, and our members vote on them. So that's what OMAG is. You get your insurance from us, but we're not an insurance company. We're not a private company. We're a Title 74 Interlocal Cooperative Act agency and a public entity risk pool. Because we're not a private company, instead of shipping off money to New York City or fat cats that collect coupons off of bonds, we return money to our members. We do it through a variety of ways. All of them are listed at our website, omag.org, omag.org. It's very simple and straightforward. And those include grants and scholarships. We have grants for things like police body-worn cameras, sanitary sewer line cameras, public works safety equipment like barricades or personal protective equipment. We have grants for a lot of different things. We also have scholarships for training for police. Right now, for example, this week, all week long, the Oklahoma Chiefs of Police Association will be using primarily OMAG trainers to train new chiefs in the state, chiefs of police. It's required training. It's a week long, and we provide a 100% scholarship for every chief that's an OMAG city that goes through that training. We have training scholarships for clerks and treasurers, City Management Association of Oklahoma, and a variety of others that help people go to the Municipal League Conference and those kinds of things. This is the second time we've been here with our recognition program. And it will or won't?
He said he was trying.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And so the recognition program is one of the vehicles by which we bring training to cities and towns. We do training for police chiefs and clerks and treasurers and city managers, for mayors. But what about training for people who run for office and serve their communities? Well, the only training that's required is the training for newly elected officials, and that's put on by the Municipal League, and that's good with that. But we bring training to you at your meeting because there's just really not much in the way of training out there. And so while we're working on getting our PowerPoint up, David and I have done this enough. We can probably do all this from memory. I handed out to you 3 things. First of all, you have the world's best pen. Congratulations. Not very many people get the world's best of anything. That pen will write in any language, so you can take it all over the world, take it with you. Don't be afraid to use it in any country in the world. You have a portfolio book, and you have a blank piece of paper that's got lines on it. So we're going to take a couple of quizzes tonight, and let's start with our first quiz. Only the elected people got the paper. If you're elected and didn't get a paper, let me know. Okay, here's your first question. It's an essay question. You can write it in bullet form. Doesn't have to be proper English sentences. What is your job? As an elected person serving the city of Perry, what's your job? What's your job as an elected city council person for the city of Perry, Oklahoma? You remember any of this from last time?
I do.
I thought you might. It's pretty memorable, really. Getting into it. Now, we're on a low budget, so you guys will just have to play that Jeopardy music in your head, but we're coming towards the end of round 1. So continue to answer the question, what is your job as an elected person for the city of Perry? But know that Alex Trebek is beginning to warm up, and he'll be having you put those pencils down in just a moment as Jeopardy will conclude. So we'll just give you a few more seconds here. What is your job as an elected person? All right, the last two timpani drums have hit. We are done with Jeopardy music, and so let's take a very brief time. And if you think it's different, let's write down on our sheet of paper, what are your responsibilities? If you think it's different, and I'm not suggesting it is or it isn't, but if you think it's different, what are your responsibilities? You wrote down what your job is, as you believe it, as you think of it. What's your responsibilities? You don't have to answer differently, but if you'd like to expand or add an answer or make a differentiation, this is your opportunity to do so. All right, as they would say at the standardized test, pencils are coming down here in just a moment. And the final essay question for this evening is as follows. Why do you think what you just wrote down is true? What's your authority? What's your citation? Why do you think what you think? You wrote what you thought your job was. You wrote what you thought your responsibilities were. Why do you think those things are true and accurate? What's your authority for thinking the thoughts that you thought? Why do you think your job is what you wrote down? Why do you think your responsibilities are what you wrote down? Music has started again. You know it doesn't play very long, but we need to be wrapping up our answers for the essay portion of the quiz. Mayor's pen is down already. I will warn you that your answers do not affect your insurance rates. We don't tell you everything in advance. We don't do that. The OMAG recognition program started about 9 years ago. David Weatherford, who's our primary presenter, developed the stability test and the questions and the answers and the training. First guinea pigs out of the chute all those years ago was the city of Enid. And so since that time, in 2017, we've added 3 steps to David's original training, and we started the recognition program. You guys have been through it once. I think it was 2 years ago maybe. Time goes by. But there's 4 steps to the recognition program. The main goal of the recognition program is to bring training to elected people to help them understand their job, their responsibilities, and what the authority is for their job and their responsibilities. So those 4 steps are to understand, most of the time we show a short 4-minute video about insurance. It's a fascinating topic. Insurance makes for a lot of good reading and watching. I don't know that we'll have that video this evening. We will take a stability test. That's a multi-point quiz that covers the 10 key areas of municipal operations. It's not as hard as the first test, I don't think. I've never taken either one of them, but I don't think it's that hard. So we'll take that test. We will review our insurance coverage. David will provide some training. And then there's a council handbook that you either adopt or you review and update. Every year between July 1st and June 30th, if you do those 4 steps, every year between July 1st and June 30th, if you do those 4 steps, OMAG will write you a check for $6,000. That's not a credit on your bill. That's not a coupon that's only good at the S&H Green Stamp store. That's real money you can spend on any lawful purpose. You could give the city attorney a raise, for example. if you wanted to. Any lawful purpose. Does the dinker work? What do we know about that?
He's pushing back there.
Do what?
I think he has to push it back.
just say next.
Next. Next.
He listens better than your
Why do, yeah, he listens way better than anybody at work, I promise you that. And I would say he listens better than my wife, but y'all probably record this, so.
We will flag that.
Why does OMAC do this training? We do this training because you're in a public entity risk pool, and we think the best run cities and towns have fewer claims, and the claims they have cost less money to pay out. We're in the claims paying business. We think the best run cities and towns have fewer claims, and the claims they have cost less money to resolve. And that's why we do training, and that's why we train you all, because you all are the people that make the policies, make the resolutions, make the ordinances, hire the city manager, hire the city attorney, hire other staff, allocate resources when you approve a budget. So I don't know what you wrote down. I give all that to Aubrey. I don't look at those answers. She compiles them. But I ask you, what is your job and what is your authority for that job? Here's what we think your job is. You're a board of directors of a municipal corporation. As such, you have the same duties, responsibilities, and resources the board of directors at Walmart has, or Charles Machine Works has, right? You're a board of directors for a municipal corporation. That's what you really are. Next, you have the duties of care, obedience, and loyalty. You have the resources of time, money, and people, and you have the duties or the jobs of setting a strategic direction, adopting policies that help staff take you there, and monitoring results. And when we get to the meetings portion of David's presentation, we'll look at some more information about meetings. But your three duties of care, obedience, and loyalty means, care means that you're going to read your agenda packet that staff puts together. You're going to understand the material that you're going to be asked to vote on. And you're going to come here prepared to discuss that, whether it's a discussion item or an action item. And it doesn't mean that you're going to vote the same way that you're going to vote, but it means you're prepared when you get here. You've asked your questions before the meeting of either staff or a consultant that you've hired, and you understand what the agenda calls you to understand. That's the duty of care. If you get here and the first time you crack open your agenda packet is when you sit down, you have not exercised the duty of care, in my opinion. Obedience means that you faithfully execute your job as promulgated by the laws of the state of Oklahoma. The federales have made laws. Previous city councils have made resolutions and ordinances that you will follow until you amend them or do away with them. That's what obedience means. And loyalty means that you're loyal to the entire organization. You didn't run because the football coach needs a new road paved to the high school football stadium, and that's your purpose in life. And you didn't run because your Sunday school teacher doesn't think that the right hours of operation go on at the swimming pool. And you didn't run because your cousin-in-law who works for the fire department doesn't get treated right. Your hat says City of Perry, city. You care about the entire organization. So you get street and alley money. Does the street and alley money get divided equally among every ward or district? No, it does not. Because you're at a council manager form of government. And what the progressives said at the turn of the last century was, we're going to run city like a business. And so where does most of the street money go? To the streets that carry the most traffic, that are in the worst repair. Because cities and towns exist for only two reasons. The first city and town that ever was developed exists for the same reason this one does. Your only two functions are to increase public safety and to facilitate commerce. That's your only two jobs. Increased public safety does not just mean police and fire. It means properly treating wastewater, safe drinking water. How do you handle your solid waste? The first time people clumped up in a group was for protection and to help make commerce happen. That's the same functions you all have. And it's very simple. Increase commerce, you heard about that tonight. Facilitate facilitate commerce, increase public safety. So, you have 3 resources, time, money, and people. You got a great financial report today. You have 2 pots of money, utilities and sales tax, use tax. You have fines, forfeitures, and fees. Doesn't amount to very much. You basically have 2 pots of monies. The only time you have as a board of directors of a municipal corporation is when you have a properly prepared and posted agenda that complies with the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act. When you have that, and that's probably 12 to 14 times a year generally, then you have the power of a municipal corporation under the Open Meeting Act. You can act. When the meeting's over, you get promoted back to citizen. You don't have any individual power. Now, the mayor may have some in times of emergency or whatever the charter may provide. So you don't have much time. You know that your finances go up and down, and people, according to my wife, are hard to deal with. So those are your 3 resources: time, money, and people. Your job is, I don't know what you wrote down for your job, but here's what I say your job is. Your job is to set a strategic direction for this city. Your job is to say, Perry's going over here, and this is where we're going. And you have a great job, and nobody else in town has it. You guys have the opportunity to get input because everybody has an opinion. But you guys get to take a blank piece of paper and write the future. That's not really blank because people have been writing on it for 100 years, but the new chapter's blank. You say Perry's going to achieve this because we're going to do this activity. Only you guys can vote on the future of this community while you're in power. So you're going to set a strategic direction, you're going to pass policies that help staff take you there, and then you monitor results. Think of a 5-year-old in the backseat of a car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Next. Only you guys can determine what your key performance indicators are. Your manager can't do it, Bryce can't do it, police chief can't do it, newspaper can't do it. How do you know if you, as a board of a municipal corporation, how do you know if you're doing a good job or not? How do you measure that? It's up to you to measure it. I suggest the 10 questions on the stability test are a good place to start. It's a framework. Zig Ziglar used to say, when he was still with us, if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. How do you know if you're doing a good job or not as an elected body? You all should develop key performance indicators for yourself. You should have them for public works and police and fire. If you have to go out and repatch the same pothole every 3 weeks, that's key performance indicator says something's wrong with that pothole, right? But how do you know if you're doing a good job or not? Next. There's an old saying, Bryce and I are old enough to remember this: what gets measured gets done. What gets measured with feedback gets improved. That's the 10-question stability test we're going to take now. What gets measured and rewarded gets repeated. That's why we'll write you a $6,000 check. So it'll be repeated every year because we're not interested in snapshots. We're interested in trends over time. Are you getting better? Are you staying the same? Or are you getting worse in these 10 key areas of municipal operations? Trends over time. Next, I don't know anything new. The stuff I'm going to tell you, I have told you, is as old as the Apostle Paul told the Greeks at Corinth. Everything's a process. You plow, you plant, you water, you weed, you wait, and the good Lord gives the increase. And you might spend your entire time on this board working the process towards that strategic direction, and you might not ever get there. But the work you do is very important, because if you're raised like me, when I was a kid, everything was an event. Birthdays, Halloween, Thanksgiving, deer season, school's finally out, thank God. And the process was the boring stuff where nothing was happening. But that's not true. That's when everything was happening. And you guys are in the process business. You'll know you have arrived at an event when somebody takes your picture and cuts a ribbon. But there's a lots of work that gets to an event. And so you guys are in the process business. Next. David Weatherford's been doing this since 1988. He went to Oklahoma State University. He and I watched a really lousy football game Saturday. And he went to university, that's what I thought too, whatever that noise was. He went to University of Tulsa Law School, he became a municipal attorney in 1988. He's currently the city attorney for Manford, Mounds, and Sand Springs. David, it's your turn.
Good. If we can go to the next slide, we'll get through it quickly. But Bill gave you an essay test. We're going to give you a multiple choice test. So we'll go a little more quickly. Stability test you took a couple years, year and a half ago, I believe. March 18, I believe, is when we were here. So we'll go over same test. I know some of you are new. Stability test is designed to measure key operations of city government. We need staff's input into it also, not just the elected officials on this one. I'll explain each question, so before you give us a score, we'll get an explanation of what the test is. We do this test because it's an attempt to force us to focus on the real big issues the city should be focused on. This test was developed by a number of elected and staff employees, and it really, the mission was to try to determine what we should be measuring in city government. So if we go to the first slide, we'll talk about question number 1. How financially stable is your city? You're going to give a score between 1 and 10, 10 being the best. You get a 10 if you have a written policy that requires at least 20% of your general fund as a reserve and you fully fund it each year. That would be a 10. A 1 is we're lucky to make payroll and we're concerned about it. So somewhere between 1 and 10, how do you think you're doing financially? And I bet that guy's got an answer.
I got that answer.
Okay? And if you have any questions, just ask. We'll get through it quick, but give a score of 1 to 10 of what you think on financial stability, because one of your most important jobs is to be sure your city's financially stable. We'll go to the next one, number 2. How stable is the governing body? That doesn't mean you don't change people, because every city, the governing body is constantly changing. A high score means that if you have turnover, you have very good candidates, you have very good people who want to be involved. This body has been considered a good place to serve, and those who serve on it are proud of their service for the city. That would be a high score. A low score is you look around to those sitting beside you and say, I wish we could start over with a whole new group. That would be a 1. And we've been in cities where everyone sitting up here like you has written down a 1. I usually step back a few steps when that happens, because we've been in some places where the elected officials wouldn't sit at the same table with each other. So somewhere between 1 and 10, how do you judge or rate the governing body? Okay, next slide. Number 3, how are your city council meetings? As Bill mentioned, your power comes from being in a meeting and complying with the Open Meeting Act. So a high score would be the meetings are enjoyable, you like the work you're doing for the city, you find a way to make it a good process for the staff, because we want to have good meetings. A low score is we have lots of arguings, lots of disagreement, meetings are horrible, and I hope I never have to go to another one. And again, we've been in cities in which everyone at the table writes down a 1. And usually when I see that, I ask, why do you keep doing it that way? This one is entirely within your control. Find a way to have good meetings. So how do you rate your meetings? You should evaluate those and find a way to make them better. Okay? Next slide, number 4, how do you rate your workforce? High score is we have stable employment workforce. It's considered a good place to work. We have vacancies, but we attract very good people to apply. So that would be a 10. I like to tell the story that in Sand Springs, we have a number of employees that have been with the city 50 years or more. We have a guy that's been riding on a garbage truck for over 50 years because he loves his job. And that's what we should want as employers, isn't it? We want to retain good employees. A low score is we have lots of turnover, we have a hard time attracting people, we don't pay very well, and we're lucky to get someone to work here, but that's okay. That would be a low score. And that's not what we want, because we won't have stable government if we do that. Okay? Next slide. What does the public think of your city? Someone mentioned Facebook earlier. Ignore that. The high score is there's a lot of confidence in this body and this city government, because the public expects you to make good decisions and trust that you will make good decisions for the city. That would be a high score, that there's a lot of confidence that this group is a leader in the region and we'll make good decisions for this area. A low score is there's constant criticism no matter what we do. Usually in those situations, the meetings are packed with people who are complaining about anything and everything. And that's a city where the public image is low. But how do you think the public rates the image of your city? Okay? Next slide, number 6. How do we deal with a crisis? Government exists to deal with things that go wrong, whether it's a tornado, a flood, whatever it may be, storms that cause lots of damage. How well does the city manage a crisis when that occurs? That's why we have police and fire and emergency response. So a high score is we know what we're supposed to do, we're well prepared, we prepare for those events, and we know how to handle it. We know what our limited role may be. It may be that it's not the mayor's job to show up when there's being a police shooting because that's the police chief's job. But knowing our limited role is a part of knowing how to deal with a crisis. A low score is we live in a crisis every day, we're just lucky to get by, we haven't put any thought into that. So between 1 and 10, how well are you prepared for a crisis? Next slide, number 7. What's our role in economic development? The high score is we as a city are actively involved, we think we can make a difference, and we think we can improve the economic standing of our community. A low score is we've decided not to be involved. We've opted out. And we see that in some places. There's some cities who have an economic development group that's totally separate from the city, and they let them do all of it. There's some cities that are in survival mode, and they just choose not to participate. There are some cities in which the elected officials have said, that's up to private business to take care of, that's not our role. But you get to decide. You'll notice we don't take the test, you do, because we don't know. It's up to you to answer this. Okay? Next slide, number 8. How well do we do in planning and goal setting? High score is the elected officials, administration, and staff work well to create well-defined goals. We have a plan and we're working toward it. That would be a high score. Low score is we just get by day to day and we don't worry about that long-range planning stuff. Okay? 1 to 10, how well do you do with planning and goal setting as a city? Next slide, number 9. This is where your manager cringes a little bit. This is not directed at the city manager. It's upper administration of the city. Has it been stable? High score is management's been stable for a long time. If you have a vacancy in upper management, you find good candidates and you hire good people because it's considered a good place to work. That should be our goal. We were in a city this year in which they've been through 3 city managers in less than 4 months. It's not real stable. A sign of many things wrong usually when that happens. There are some cities in the Tulsa area that have been through 5 city managers in 10 years. It's probably not a city manager problem. There's some other problem. But we're only going to be stable if we're stable in management, somehow. The low score is we have lots of turnover. When we have vacancies, we have a hard time attracting anyone because it's not a good place for administration to work. And if so, we're not going to be a stable city. Okay? Next slide, number 10. How well do we communicate as a group? How well as a city do we communicate? And for you, are you getting the information you need to make decisions you need? A high score would be the elected officials from the lowest to the highest staff are well informed on the major activities of the city. We're getting the information we need and we make good decisions because we know what's going on. Low score is, I'm not getting any of the info, I need more help. I need to know more about what's going on to be able to make good decisions. So communication a lot of times causes problems or failure to communicate well. So how well do you communicate as an organization?
We don't need your names on it, just whether you're elected or a worker, and Terry, and I'll reflect these, and then she will compile them, and we'll get you a compilated score together, and get you those results back.
And Bill's going to give you a handout of some suggestions from others around the state of how to get better. We're not here to judge. Your score won't affect your rates on this.
Put a name on it.
Score won't affect rates at all. If we go to the next slide, we can see some scores from around the state. It's a little bit hard to see on the monitor, some of the scores along the bottom, but I think it's always interesting to to look at some of the low scores because it gives us an idea of what's going on in some places. Think about it for a minute. To score a 14, a city of 0 to 5,000 that scored a 14, they had to work real hard to score that low. Those are some of the lowest scores we've seen. A city of 10 to 20,000 that scored a 12 out of 100. And Bill's heard me say this before, I'm always interested in the one that scored a 51 because that was the third or fourth time we'd been there. Out of 100, they scored a 51. And that's a city over 20,000, it's a county seat. All of you would know the name of the city, but they continue to fail. And they also have more claims with OMAG than any other city in the state, and they continue to, because they choose to. There's one theme that shows up for the scores. If you look at them, a couple of different conclusions. Public image is consistently the lowest. Everyone has a Facebook problem. It didn't solve the world's problems. It just became an avenue for those who want to tell us what we did wrong. Crisis management generally is the highest score. We would expect that. It's a real core mission of city government. So that's a good sign. Your score from a year and a half ago, I believe, was 79.5, right at 80, which is a high medium score. The highest score we've seen from anyone's low 90s, so no one gets 100. That's never happened. So your score is a very good score from when we were here before. As I know I looked at it earlier, I think the lowest score was, I think, maybe planning, goal setting. Aubrey can tell us, because we just looked at it.
Yeah, planning.
Planning and goal setting. So that's not unusual. So I think some interesting scores. Tells me you're doing well. You've been pretty stable, and that's a good thing. So you should be happy with that. The handout is intended, and you can take it with you. Hopefully you find something that helps you. It's intended as ideas of how to get better. We're not here to judge, we're here to measure and really to let you measure how you're doing and think about how you can get better at what you do. If we look at the next slide, I think it's just a different one. I told Aubrey to add this one. I understand some of you are new, so one of the things we've done a lot of is take surveys. And these are survey responses from elected officials just like you. What mistakes are made by first-time elected officials? And so this survey from this slide, I think is interesting. I like the third one. New person gets all the calls that previously have been made to City Hall about something somebody wants, and they haven't been able to get their way. They usually call the new person again and start over. And that's not unusual, is it?
No.
Which of you are new? I know several. 4 of you. Just since April, May? April election.
And actually, we have one that's vacant, so there's 5.
Gosh.
Not here tonight, so, yeah.
What caused you to want to run for office?
That's a loaded question.
It is. I'm just curious.
I just like the idea of community service.
Good.
It's kind of fit in with that.
Has it been enjoyable so far?
So far, yeah.
Good.
I was expecting a lot worse. Especially that number 3 you're talking about. I expected more people complaining.
More calls?
Yeah.
Have you had any of those? Somebody who's...
Not really, no. I just had a few kind of, what about this, what about that, you know?
Yeah. How about Amber? What made you decide to run?
I've been here a while.
You lived here?
Yeah, felt like stepping up and being a voice for the community.
Has it been enjoyable?
Yes.
What would make it better?
I like the idea that we could plan better
Okay,
on a few
good.
things.
You should spend time, as Bill mentioned, most important thing you can do is plan for the future and I don't know, do you have an annual retreat or planning session?
We have a planning session, a strategic planning session that we have annually since I've been here anyway.
Okay, good.
It's normally the first quarter of the year, of the
Okay.
calendar year.
So you're not to that yet?
No.
but
So we'll be having one coming up shortly here.
prior to the budget and
Oh, yes,
as a
sir.
part of the budgeting
Yes, sir.
process, so good. That'll be a good chance to offer lots of good input on those things. You're new also.
Mm-hmm.
It-
Just My husband was on council for a long time and he couldn't do it anymore, so I'm
I,
carrying the torch.
I assume he enjoyed it or he wouldn't have encouraged you to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that's a good thing. You know, one of the things we've seen, I mentioned to Bryce before we started, incumbents are getting beat at twice the rate they used to. We need good people to serve over a long period of time, because that builds more stability with cities. And we've been to multiple cities this year in which everyone sitting at the table is brand new. We've been to one city in which the outgoing group handed the key to City Hall to the incoming group and told them nothing else. Because it's a totally new group, and we've just seen more and more of that. Our jobs are gonna get much harder with more and more turnover, so it's a good thing that you're taking up the torch for your husband on service, because that longevity benefits everyone. The institutional knowledge for the mayor and the others who have been here is invaluable to us. How about you? What motivated you to run?
I just felt there were too many people that, when they weren't happy, they would complain and not make any progress instead of stepping up and trying to change something.
Good. Good reason to get involved and make a difference. That's good input from the new ones. How about the two senior members? We'll start with the mayor. What advice would you give the new ones? Because you know better for serving on council in Perry. You two guys know more about it than any of us.
Well, I would say just research. You know, everybody comes to you and they complain about the immediate problem they have. And you have to really look at the big picture about what the city's big problem is. I mean, we could spend all day just addressing each and every person's issues, but we really have to look at the bigger picture, how that person fits into the city, period.
It's much more complicated than the public thinks, isn't it? The job's a little bit different and more complicated. And it does take that work to do it.
Yeah, I as a councilman, I was a councilman for 9 years, 10 years, and I bet I didn't get one phone call a year. Changed when you become mayor.
What can each of them do to make your job as mayor easier?
Just pay attention to what's in the packets. Just read the packets and make sure you come in here educated.
Good.
And I do want to tell you about Curtis over here. I just give it up to this guy. He was the gentleman that would come in here and complain and kick things and throw things. But never do those people step up. And
Yeah.
he did. And I'm really proud of him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, what advice would you give the new ones? How long have you been on council?
5 years.
5 years?
This is my 5th year. I'm gonna have to agree with Bill, doing the research and knowing what's going on in here. And I'm gonna say, in the 5 years I've been here, I'm thrilled to be on this council. We have a well-balanced, well-maintained council. Everyone gets along. We don't agree. We get along, and it's enjoyable.
Knowing how to disagree is an important thing. Our country's kind of lost that, hasn't it? But you can't. Your service will become miserable if you don't know how to disagree with each other. And you're gonna disagree. That's why we don't just have one. Bryce, you've done this for a long time. What's the best thing they can do to be a successful city council?
Well, I mean, I would have to agree with read your packet, but, you know, get involved. If you have a question, ask. If you want to go in a direction, you know, let us know. A lot of some of our best ideas have come from the council, and, you know, anything that you want, we put on the agenda, and we try to give a background to it and try to advance what the body wants, because I'm really in favor of the government governing, and sometimes I feel like, you know, I'm doing, you know, too much of it, or that the administration is doing too much of it, and we'd like to hear from you. And I love this planning session, you know, idea, doing more than that, and letting us know how we're doing.
Yeah,
You know,
good,
this is my 34th year, so
yeah.
you know that's a whole lot of time.
He wasn't gray when he started here.
No, you should look at the
He
pictures.
was 12.
I was 12. Yeah.
But it's gotta be enjoyable, or you don't wanna keep coming back.
I love
It's
Perry.
gotta be. It
Oh,
should be.
Perry is an incredible community
Yeah.
with incredible people. The institutions, the ones, and like I've always said, and I've told Russ, Perry always gets it right, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, they do. For some reason, they always get it right on issues. I mean, we passed the sales tax of what 84%.
Gosh,
For
that's
the
a
hospital,
good sign. Good sign of public
84%.
confidence in you.
Yeah, and that's just in what April.
And it helps when two of your biggest fans are also employed by you. I mean, that may make sense, it may
Oh,
not,
no.
because, but they don't do it because they're employed by us. They both do an outstanding job for us.
Good. And for the city manager, what can they all do to make your job easier and better? Because we don't ask that question enough, do we?
No, ask questions. I'd like to hear more input from the council members individually, not as a group. Don't reply all or anything. You all have my phone number. I answer it 24/7. You know how to text me, email. I get that at home and on the phone. If you have questions, let us know. And also understand that when you get a complaint or a request from a resident, and we heard a situation tonight, that our job as administrators is to understand that one size does not fit all, and that when we do try to make a solution to fit one person, there's unintended consequences for everybody. And that's why sometimes it seems like we act a little slowly, but that's what we want to do. We want to make certain that what we do, just like Ross said, when we get it right the first time.
Yeah, good, good. How about for the fire chief who's filling in as city clerk? Let's put him on the spot since he gets to sit up here. And what can all of them do to make your job easier and better?
In all honesty, I think it would be, I'd like to take part in onboarding, just to explain how our department operates and how we're funded. And just for, when a new council member comes on board, I think it's important when they make those decisions
To understand
know who
it.
we are and how we operate and how we function.
Yeah,
Same thing.
good.
Brent?
Police chief, same question. What would you like council to understand that would make your job easier or better?
Well, like Russell and I's job are so unique, as you just don't get hired and go out and work on the streets or whatever. There's so much training and
Right.
academies, and you watch police shows, people go, well, how come y'all don't go out and do this? And unless you've done what we've done, it's hard to explain our job. I mean, it's
harder now than it's ever been, isn't
It
it?
is, and police, I can't get hardly anybody to come be a police officer. Back in the 90s when I was applying, you'd have 80 apps for one position. Everybody wanted this profession. You gotta go out and recruit for it anymore.
Oh, yeah. It's hard for anyone to hire police.
It is.
So.
And just trying to, the 13 years I've been here, if nobody leaves within 2 months, I've achieved a goal of having the staff from a whole calendar year. I've never had that achievement since I've been as the chief here. So I'm trying to maintain our staff, and there's always the bigger and better, and everybody wants more money, but I think, I've got a good crew right now, and I think they're committed to Perry.
That challenge that goes with it, though, keeping and retaining good officers is much harder than it used to be.
It's very hard.
It's something all of the elected officials, and I'm sure it's same for fire, the elected officials just have to understand there's just constant turnover.
There is.
No different than there is with council. So all of you getting on the same page, and I shouldn't have skipped the financial guy. I was glad. I usually mention when I go through the test that I had someone who, and I may have told you this last time, raised his hand and said, I have no idea how much reserve we have. because I've only been on council 15 years and I've never seen a financial report. So it was good that you have a very detailed, very good financial report. That is an important part of what you do, but what would make your job easier?
Well, you know, I'd probably start out with maybe Bryce talking less at council meetings.
Means you gotta drive.
Nobody else said it. Somebody had to harass the poor guy tonight, right?
He has the longest drive home.
I've got the longest drive home, yeah. No. Larry kind of said it and pointed it out, but I think it's the expectation communication. You know, I mean, the direction of the city is driven by you all. And we replot a roadmap every 2 years, whenever half the council changes, you know, and to get that roadmap correct and get the directions that you want us to go, because we could be off chasing rabbits over here and you guys are wondering why we're still doing what the old council wanted. And so, you know, always setting forth those expectations and putting out in front of us where you want it to be, you know, I mean, in those decisions. We can make a lot of decisions on the backside that are just everyday, daily operations. That's what Larry does and can do really well. But if we don't give Larry a direction, and we don't tell him exactly, hey, we want to pursue this, and we want to leave that alone, you know, and those pieces aren't there, then sometimes we just find ourselves wasting time chasing a whole bunch of rabbits that you guys aren't even interested in. So the communication side of the direction, the foresight is really what you guys are here for. In my opinion, a lot of what you're here for, and set that game plan so that we can then figure out the best way to get there.
And it's gotta be a group game plan, not individuals, because individually, you know, one of the worst mistakes 20 or 30 years ago at a retreat where we had all this discussion and one council member had some crazy idea, but 6 months later, they remembered it as, remember, we talked about doing this. Well, they never voted on it. It never got formalized. It was one crazy person's idea. But you've got to get on the same page as a group of what your goal is. We can go to the next slide. I'll get through just a couple of things and get you finished. I think we've covered all of those categories. I would encourage you to find a way to get better in each. Again, the idea is not to judge, but to evaluate, and for you to evaluate how you're doing and put some thought into how you can get better in each category. We go to the next slide. I think there are just a few things to cover. Top 10 things you can do to improve your city. These are from surveys from elected officials just like you from all around the state. Make your meeting a business meeting. It's not a debate class or a social gathering. You're the board of directors for a municipal corporation, so make it a business meeting. That really is what it should be. Have a long-range approach that we've talked about. Where are we going as a city? Have a plan when you show up. Do your homework before you get here. Next slide. Number 7, promote your city. You help define your city's reputation, and Perry's had a great reputation as an organization for a long time. I'm convinced that cities are no different than individuals. They have a reputation and they have a culture that gets created, and if they perpetuate that culture, it can continue and sustain itself. Those who have a bad culture also perpetuate it and sustain themselves. So find a way that you can promote and enhance the culture of Perry over a long period of time, and your city will be successful. Make it a good place to work. Simple appreciation means something. City employees get criticized every day. Don't be a part of that crowd, because it's something that's going on every day in their job. Set policy goals. Again, most important role is to identify the direction of the city. Where do you want Perry to go? And only you can decide that. Next slide. You have a limited role. Some things are none of your business. I get to leave town, so I get to tell you that. There will come a time when one of you calls the city manager and says, what happened to my best friend Johnny, who lives down the street, who used to work for the city? I understand you fired him. And he's going to say, I wish I could tell you, but I'm not. And it may be they flunked a drug test, it may be they stole money, who knows what they may have done. But some things are none of your business. He's the city manager. He gets to decide on the hiring and firing and personnel issues. And I'm always amazed when we go to cities and someone will say to me in a city manager city, but we want to be involved in that. I don't know why in the world you'd want to be involved in that, right? You don't enjoy it, do you? Nobody does. Police chief doesn't enjoy it. Those who have to deal with personnel issues don't enjoy it. I don't know why you'd want to get involved in it. But understand you have a limited role. We all have a limited role. Lead by example. Ethics and conduct matter. Be responsive to the public. And then again, survey of what can you do to make your city better. Number one on the list is always find a way to work well as a team with staff and the administration and the elected officials all on the same page. If you do that, you will be successful. If you don't do that, you will fail. And all of our surveys of the elected officials and city officials around the state would show that's the number one thing you can do to make your city better. Get past your differences and work well together, and whatever those are, because then you'll be successful. And I think that's all we have, unless Bill has something he wants to add.
I do. Thank
He
you all for
always
letting us
does.
be here this evening. We really appreciate Bryce. He's an important part of a lot of communities in this part of the state. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for having us out again. We really appreciate it. Appreciate Dixie's leadership and help as well. And so we will be available to assist any way that you need to for the folks that aren't here, or to get those scores back to you. OMAG's got a lot of resources, and personally, OMAG has a what we like to call a municipal culture. Many of the people who work at OMAG used to work in local government. Some of it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but we used to do it nonetheless. And so we appreciate your service. We understand that you have a heart for the community and why the good folks serve. And so on behalf of OMAG, thanks for letting us be out and do this training again, and we'll be working with your staff to get the process completed for fiscal year 1920. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming this evening. I've not forgot about the last session we had. It was getting our scores back, knowing where we stand. It was very beneficial to the council. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come help us.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Item number 15, consider approval of resolution number 2019-10, authorizing participation in the OMAG recognition program.
Motion to approve resolution 2019-10, authorizing participation.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bond? Yes. Dilbeck?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
Stroller?
Yes. Thank you, council. Number 16, any new business that we need to talk about this evening? Seeing none, item number 17.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bond? Yes. Dilbeck?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
Stroller?
Yes.